New world.
New beginnings.
New ideas.
This is the Columbian Exchange. The year is 1492. Europeans have just now begun to come out of the turmoil left by the Black Plague. The next step was to start a new revolution of ideas and principles, exploring land west. And the one man to spark this, the one and only Christopher Columbus.
Born on either August 26 or October 31st, 1451, in Genoa, Italy, Christopher Columbus began sailing as a young man. He acquired the skills and talents to become a master navigator and admiral of his own ships and voyages. He made 4 trips across the Atlantic Ocean from Spain in his prime years, 1492, 1493, 1498, and 1502. With these voyages, he was determined to find the direct water route west from Europe to Asia. However, he never did accomplish this goal. Instead, his voyages brought him to the Americas. History sometimes discredits him for discovering a new world when millions of Native Americans already occupied the land. These journeys did, however, mark the beginning of centuries of European conquest and colonization. This era would become to be known as the Columbian Exchange. This not only affected social aspects of life, but also the economic prosperity and political establishment.
The Columbian Exchange became an influence of technological advances of the late 15th and early 16th centuries. Europe had become an economic and technological powerhouse compared to the Native Americans. However, they still benefited from the exchange of new ideas and cultures. For example, horses were as alien to America in 1492 as potatoes were to Ireland. It did not take long, following horses' introduction to the New World by Spanish conquistadors, for Indians to appreciate the strange beast's values in transportation, hunting, and warfare. The horses transformed Indian societies, and even created new Indian nations. The Comanche emerged as a distinct tribe around 1700, breaking away from the Shoshone in order to adopt new nomadic lifestyles, made possible only by the horses. The Comanche, who quickly developed an unrivaled reputation for skilled horsemanship, soon became to dominate the southern Great Plains. Native Americans were also impacted greatly by the technological advances, some of the most notable: a written alphabet and new modern architectural techniques. The written alphabet became notable due to how it was used by the Europeans. Being the Native Americans never had a formal written language, Europeans knew that by attempting to establish new relations with treaties would be fairly difficult. Europeans decided to educate the natives by teaching them to read and write their European languages. This would break down barriers and help with integrating cultures. At first, the natives were skeptical about the written languages because they never followed a written agreement. Blood oaths were the highest form of agreement. Europeans used their alphabet to educate natives as well as try to convert them to Christianity. In a social sense, Europeans believed that Christians were above the barbaric natives. They believed that unless they accepted Jesus, they would be damned and go to hell, a common religious belief of the era. The Europeans believed that they were beginning to educate and change the natives to better their everyday lives. Europeans held Christianity to the highest standard in social importance and even considered conversion an evolution. New farming equipment such as the plow ignited the New World's economy and improved the health on a long-term basis. The plow was important because it was able to cultivate large areas of land with a smaller amount of effort, thus creating a surplus of plants for both the natives and Europeans. Large animals such as horses and oxen would pull the plows across the land, making vast farming land and rich soil being transformed into active crop fields. This then led to the establishment of towns. Natives began creating villages, giving them evidence of moving them away from the traditional hunter-gatherer society. Europeans experienced greater crop output in the New World because of the rich soil that they did not have in Europe. What we now consider to be traditional European cuisines are heavily influenced by the Columbian Exchange. Before 1492, the Italians did not have tomatoes, the Spanish did not have peppers, the Irish did not have potatoes, and the Swiss did not even have chocolate. They were all species native to the Western Hemisphere and brought back to the Europe as the literal fruits of their success. European architectural techniques helped to build new homes, ranches, farms, ports, and ships in the New World. The productions of these architectural structures led to the establishment of the first colonial and native towns in the New World. Towns relocated Indians from their original land into villages. They also began changing building materials, including the use of wood and charcoals, which in turn led to more deforestation of the land. This allowed natives to build stronger homes and for European immigrants to build their own homes at the same standard as their homes in Europe. Access to new and better foods allowed the Europeans' populations to grow, and access to the New World gave these people a place to go. Guns and knives facilitated hunting and fishing for the Native Americans. While natives already had knives, what they were used to using were very mandible and bendable material because of the use of obsidian, and could not be used over and over like the European knives made of steel and iron were. Before guns, spears, hatchets, and bows and arrows were the most common used weapons of the Native Americans. A bow and arrow allowed for hunting from greater distances, but they did not have the same amount of damage as a gun. Some animals required more than one arrow to be killed also. When natives witnessed the destructiveness of guns, they realized that they could use them for hunting larger animals. Natives now, because of the immigration of Europeans, also had horses to ride and could now chase down and kill large herds of animals quicker. Weapons had such a profound impact on the Native American culture that they soon became the most widely traded goods between Europeans and natives. Europeans had an abundance of weapons and felt that parting them for the Native Americans, such as labor crops, was worth the cost. Europeans used the natives' fascination with firearms and weapons to exploit them. Europeans had such a comparative advantage in manufactured goods that the natives became dependent on them for stronger weapons, thus allowing Europeans to receive more goods. The wheel was another technological advancement that played a major role in construction. Large, heavy pieces of construction were able to be transported with greater ease with the wheel. The wheel was later used on ships as well. As more and more homes were built, towns were established and were them seaports. Due to the trading post empires established by the Portuguese, Dutch, and the English merchants, Asian and European markets were linked through goods transported on European ships. Those same ships soon began carrying goods with the Asian markets of the Indian Ocean basin. By the late 16th century, European merchants and Arab merchants were nearly equal in the trading patterns in the Indian Ocean basin. This circumstance laid the groundwork for the emergence of a truly global trading system in which mariners from European nations carried goods around the world by way of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. While many aspects of this exchange had positive effects, such as the exchange of foods between Europe and America, there were also negative effects, such as the exchanges of diseases between Europe and the Americas. New World civilizations such as the Incas and Aztecs faced near total destruction of their populations through disease brought by the Europeans or by colonization. It is estimated that over 1/2 of the native population of the New World died from diseases such as smallpox, malaria, typhus, chickenpox, diarrhea, and famine. With the building of ports and ships in the New World, the West African slave trade was soon followed. This was done through a diaspora, or forced migration of its people, as slavery became the dominant labor force in the Americas. However, it is under the false assumption that a majority of these slaves went to the New World. Only about 5% of the total slaves who went to the New World, where about 25% went to the Caribbean, and about 70% went to Brazil. Sugar, silver, tobacco, textiles, guns, furs, and enslaved humans were carried as valuable cargo from one port to another. Silver especially became the desired medium of exchanges as it was highly valued in China and easily exploited from South America. Cowrie shells from India were a highly desirous medium of exchange throughout West Africa. By 1750, all parts of the world except Australia participated in this global commercial network with European merchants, fulfilling the most prominent roles. And by this time, the world was changed forever. While the world has gone through a plethora of changes since the Columbian Exchange, this theme continues to be true throughout history, both on a regional and global scale.